There were a number of you who said that meetings were unproductive. My concern when I saw the survey results is that 76% of you said that less than half of your meetings were productive. That is not good, as you know. When you are able to be in charge of a meeting, it's a lot easier to control how much time is spent on various areas and how much prep work is involved. So when you are in control of a meeting, hopefully you are setting clear objectives at least 2 business days ahead of time. That way everybody understands what's going to be discussed. And once those objectives have been set, what kind of document can be shared that explains this to everybody else? It starts with an A. Drop that. Very good, Caitlin. Thank you very much. That agenda. There are so many meetings that are run without agendas, but it's absolutely vital. If you get invited to a meeting and there's not an agenda, step number one is to ask the meeting leader, can I have an agenda, please, so I can make sure that I show up fully prepared for this. If an agenda is not issued, I would seriously consider not going to that meeting. That sounds horrible, but I think we all know if there's not an agenda, that meeting tends to go off the rails. So make sure that when you are in charge of the meetings, you are setting those objectives and you are sharing that within an agenda. Also, anytime that you hold a meeting, there should be some kind of prep involved. So anybody who's attending your meeting is either reviewing something, so that way they can be thoughtful during the meeting. They are thinking of an idea that they are bringing to the meeting, or they are showing up with a deliverable. There's usually at least 2 or 3 minutes of prep involved. You're not just walking in cold and sitting there as a lump. And one of the ways that time is lost during meetings is when people are hit with the agenda when they walk in, they haven't had time to pre-think, and then the meeting takes so much longer, you run out of time, and now we need to have another meeting to continue what we were thinking about. So if folks can have an agenda, and as a part of the agenda, they are told how to prep for it, and that is going to be a huge time saver. Brainstorming. If you have heard the term brainstorming before, I'd like you to drop into the chat what it is. The Harvard Business Review really promotes this. And brainstorming means that not only do individuals have a chance to brainstorm and come up with ideas before a meeting, but a lot of departments can groupthink. Kelsey, yes, exactly. It's groupthink before the meeting happens. So there is a collective place, a collaborative place where folks can post their ideas or further questions. So that way there's a whole lot of pre-thinking being done before a meeting. That helps save time. So an example would be if you are in a Microsoft family, in OneNote, there could be a document that's shared with everybody who's invited to the meeting so that people can post their questions, thoughts, ideas ahead of time. And that is what brainstorming is. In a physical world, brainstorming used to be putting Post-its on a certain wall in a certain office. People would walk by and just slap their questions or their ideas on there. In the digital world, it's sharing that document. So that is a huge time saver for meetings. And then when it comes to scheduling, one of the biggest mistakes made with meetings is having a standing meeting for every single week and then not canceling it if there's not a reason to have the meeting. That has been a huge loss. Even before a lot of people went virtual during COVID, having that block of time, setting aside 30 minutes or an hour each week, and then that standing meeting block rolls around and there's nothing really to discuss. It becomes more of a networking session, which could be nice, but if it's unplanned, it's just people talking with no direction. So if you are in charge of a standing meeting, then please feel free to cancel the upcoming meeting if there's nothing specific to be discussed. Raise your hand if you attend more meetings than you plan. In other words, you're low on the planning end. Okay, you attend more. So everything that I'm talking about here, this is something that you can ask the meeting facilitator for. If you have a very open relationship with that meeting facilitator, then you can just be quite direct and say, hey, do you have an agenda for the meeting? Or do we have a brainstorming space for this meeting? Or do we really need to have the standing meeting this week? What is there to discuss? However, if you don't have that direct relationship, then it would be more of a roundabout way of asking and making it about improving what you are delivering, improving what you're bringing to the table. So, in other words, do you have an agenda so I can make sure I've come fully prepared? Do you have a brainstorming space? Because that is really going to help me generate ideas for you and for the team. And for scheduling, a lot of us are trying really hard to meet these deadlines. Are we going to be able to shorten the meeting this week? Or if we don't have anything listed on the agenda, could we possibly skip it? Because that would really give us a lot of time back. So, whether you are in charge of the meeting or you are attending a meeting, you can either set these parameters or you can ask about them.